Alright guys, Joe here with SimVR Labs, and we're going to do a tutorial on AC3D, and I'm going to kind of go into this as if you've never used AC3D, although, yeah, we'll kind of just dive into it here. You know, some of this is rehashed for people who watched my Come Labs with Me series, um, but that was more VR, you know, VR tweaking specific. This is more aimed at people who want to develop an aircraft, maybe, or add some objects to an aircraft, or maybe just add something to an aircraft and also animate something. For example, if you think about an instrument, so say I wanted to make some instruments on my panel, on my 3D cockpit. Say I wanted to make a 3D cockpit and I wanted to make an instrument. And that instrument was going to be the airspeed meter, right? The indicated airspeed. So the background of that instrument, the back plate, has the texture on it of like the numbers for the speed, right? And then in between all that is a needle, and that needle kind of rotates. And that needle rotates based on the speed you're going, which that rotation is tied to an X-plane dataref. So when the dataref says you're going, 10 nautical miles per hour, then the needle would be on the 10, right? On the 10 mark. And so you would have a static 2D image, and then you would have a needle that is set to rotate around on an axis that you assign, and also in a position that you assign, and also tied to a dataref that you assign. So all that sounds real complicated, but let's jump into it, and I'll show you how it's really not that complicated. So what I want to do is I want to look at an object first, and kind of what it is, and why it is the way it is. So with AC3D, you can import, right? I can import X-plane OBJ files, right? So an OBJ file has a lot of information in it. There's information about the way it's going to look at the top based on reflectivity, and whether it's a glass object, and whether it's got any kind of normal maps, or lit textures, like lighting textures. That's usually at the top of the OBJ. Like if you open it with a notepad or something. And then under that, you'll see a ton of numbers, right? Those numbers are vector coordinates. I'm not going to get into what that is, but basically that's a number representation of the geometry of your object. And then under that is a bunch of variables and conditions and things that tie pieces of geometry to a dataref, right? And makes it rotate around or move around or slide around based on all that information. So let's go ahead and import an object, right? We'll stick with the 172 because it makes sense, right? First of all, if you look in any kind of aircraft folder, usually under the root folder, there's usually one OBJ file, and that's the Cockpit OBJ. The Cockpit OBJ is something different. Now, if you watch the VR specific Come Labs with Me series, then you know that the Cockpit OBJ is special because that's where all the click spots are. That's where all the manipulators are. That's where you grab things and move things with your mouse or with your VR controllers. That's all stored in the Cockpit OBJ. None of the other OBJ files have that special function. Okay, so typically if you open up a Cockpit OBJ, it doesn't have the actual cockpit. It's just got the click spots kind of everywhere. The cockpit is like the textured cockpit itself is usually one of the many OBJ files in the objects folder, right? So let's go into the objects folder here, and you'll see these are all pieces of the aircraft, right? When you put all these pieces together, you get the entire aircraft. You get the nose, you get the gear, you get the wings, you get the fuselage, you get the instruments, you get the needles, you get the seats, you get all the things, right? So let's look at the front seats of the Cessna 172, right? So I imported it, and here it is, okay? So I'm not going to go through every little feature of AC3D. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to start doing something, right? That is going to put something into X-plane. It's going to teach you how to take some geometry, put it into X-plane, and animate it, right? And position it where it needs to be, and color it, and texture it, and all the things, right? So let's get into it. So if you import, it puts it in here. Now, what you're seeing is the seats, the same size they're going to be in X-plane, the same position they're going to be in X-plane. And so I can use this as a reference point when I'm making another object or I'm bringing another object in. I can scale it based on the size of what I see. Let's just keep bringing in different objects so you can see it all start to come together, right? So if I bring in, because you can just keep stacking these, I can bring in the panel, right? You click on it, and then there's the panel, right? You can rotate around my 3D, and there it is, okay? So these are 2D panels, these three right here, these little squares, these little quad sections. This is the front view, right? And I'm zooming in with my mouse wheel, and I can click my mouse wheel and hold it. If I click and hold my mouse wheel, it pans, right? Up, down, left, right. I'm clicking and holding it. When I let go, then it doesn't do it anymore, and I can zoom in and out. That's just the front view. It's orthographic, right? And then I've got a side view left, and I've got the top view. If I wanted to change this to right, I would just change it to right, right? Keep it on left. This one here is the 3D view. You can rotate this one around. And you see these two like arrows? If you click with your left mouse button and you just drag, then it rotates around. Now, what is it rotating around? Well, right now it's just rotating around kind of like center mass. If I wanted to rotate around a certain point, this is pretty important. It usually trips people up on AC3D. If I select the seats and I go up here to views and click look at selection, then it puts the seats in my center point of view. And when I rotate, it rotates around the seats, not the panel anymore, right? A lot of people can get tripped up about that. So for example, if I wanted to, if you want to deselect something, by the way, it's either Control-Shift-A. You'll use that a lot, so I would recommend learning the hotkey for that one. Control-Shift-A. Or you can go up to Edit, select nothing. Okay. So Control-Shift-A and select nothing. And then say I just wanted to like really isolate on the head of that red mixture handle, right? Because if I click on that, right now I'm in object selection mode, right? If I click on group selection mode and I click on it, it selects the entire group, right? It just so happens that I'm pretty sure this is also all one object, but let me try. So if you click on this, this is object selection mode. If these were different objects, it would only select the object. Oh, it is. It is a separate object, right? So I've clicked on the mixture handle object. Now, if I rotate around right now, remember, it's still rotating around some weird arbitrary point. But if I click on view, look at selection, now I can zoom in and it's all about this mixture handle, right? Say I wanted to get even more specific than that, right? So I can actually deselect that and I can just select a face. You see how these are broken down into little triangle looking faces? I just wanted to select like this little face right there, right? And I wanted to actually rotate just around that face. The same thing, views, look at selection. Now it's all about that face right there, right? So that's how you rotate around. And that's also the different views. So you've got group view, does the whole group. Object view selects different specific objects. Faces select different specific faces, right? Little triangles. And then vertices selects the actual little points on the triangle where the triangles come together, right? If you just highlight, it's selecting a certain point. And if I click and drag, it's gonna like pull it out, right? Control Z is how you undo something. Control Y is redo, Control Z is undo. So I could bring in more things, but anyway, so what I'm gonna do, I think I just want the seats. By the way, these yellow lines are animation lines. So basically, these are the lines with which the animation either rotates around or slides around. You have two types of animations in X-planes: rotations and slides. For example, this key. This key rotates around this point right here. Let's see if I can actually select it. Yep, that point right there. The key rotates around the point, right? And then the switch here, the top of this switch rotates around that one. And then these switches rotate around this guy. So you see how it like can, if you did a full circle with it, the switch would just go kind of up and over this here. You got to imagine this is like a pole or like a pipe or like a pin that's going through this little base right here, and it rotates around that. So these yellow lines are like that. The length of these yellow lines, when it's a rotation, they're usually 1 meter, and that's just what X-plane like assigns, right? These other little lines are actual translation lines, and translation lines are a little bit different. The length of those is actually the length of the slide of what you want to slide. So length of these doesn't really matter on rotation. It does matter on translation. That's how you set how much it slides in and out, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of this group. Now, I could select group. I could click on that select group, and I could go up to edit, delete, and that would do it, right? But I'm going to show you a different way because you need to get used to the hierarchy view, okay? So I'm going to Control-Shift-A, deselect all. Go to Tools and Hierarchy View, okay? This is the hierarchy view, all right? Let's take a look at what we're seeing. World is X-plane, okay? Underneath world is two groups. So we've got a group, and there's the tree for that group. And then you've got this group here, and there's the tree for all of its things. These are the animations with some rotates and polys. A poly means a piece of geometry, right? It names all the separate pieces of geometry polys because it doesn't know what to name it, right? But then these animation groups hold the rotation. So a rotate, so if I select this by object and I click on the rotate, that is the actual yellow line, right? That things rotate around, right? That's that rotation, that's that one. This is a translation. Remember I said the things that slide? This is a translation for something that would slide up and down, right? Probably this flap lever. So there's translations, rotations, and geometry, right? All kinds of like different things. And if I just want to get rid of the whole cockpit panel part, then I can click on group selection mode. I'll make sure I don't select anything real quick. And then select the group that you want to get rid of and just edit and delete. Now, that didn't delete it from X-plane or anything, so don't worry about it. All that did is that removed it from our little current project. Because in reality, we're not going to modify any of the current objects that are there. We're going to add a new object. But I'm using the seats as a point of reference for size and positioning. Because if I position something on the seats, it's going to show up right in that spot that I position it, and the size I position it, and the way I position it in X-plane, based on just using this point of reference here. So, matter of fact, let's just do that. So say I wanted to add a, let's just make like a pizza box, right? On the passenger, let's say passenger, the co-pilot seat, right? So you have these pre-made primitive 3D objects here. If you click on one and click on somewhere in here, it's just going to draw it. So let's just do that. Let's make a box, right? And I'll just click off to the side, and it makes this giant cube. Now, the deal is this cube is not actually giant. It's just that everything in X-plane is really small. And I'm not sure why, but everything in X-plane is really small compared to other things in all the 3D modeling programs. Everything in X-plane is just really small. So what we need to do first is obviously scale this thing and make it look like a pizza box. So I don't use AC3D for 3D modeling. A lot of people do. I prefer Blender or I prefer 3D Coat, one of those two programs. But sometimes I'll use AutoCAD Inventor, Autodesk Inventor. So I'll usually have the 3D model modeled up, and then when I bring it in, I don't want to deform it. I just want to change the size. Because if I come in here and I start clicking on these little blue boxes and dragging, I can actually make this thing whatever size I want, move it around, slide it around. But what I've done is I've deformed it. Because look, this may look right here, like this may be like a perfect square in this view, but in here it's like not. It's like stretched, right? So there's really no way for me to get it back to being a perfect square if I start sliding around and deforming. Now I'm gonna make a pizza box, so I'm gonna do this anyway. But let's talk about if you just imported in your own geometry and you don't want to deform it, you just want to scale it down. Let's do that. So Control Z, we'll keep doing that a couple times, get it back to where it was, which was there. And if I wanted to keep that without deforming it but change its size, I'll use the scale option over here. Now this is X, Y, and Z, right? So 100 means you don't actually get it to move at all because it's 100%. 100% of something is what it is. If I wanted to shrink it down to 50%, then I would shrink down 50 on the X, 50 on the Y, and 50 on the Z. What it'll do is actually make this cube keep the same, aspect ratio, but it change it down to 50% of what it was, right? Say I wanted to make it, skinny, or actually let's make it short, right? Let's make it not tall. So I could keep the X at 100 because I like X where it's at. X is your side to side, right? Your Z is your front to back. I'll keep that where it's at too. But I want to knock the tallness of it down by half of what it is. Then I would click scale, and it basically does it again. I could do it again, just like that. It's starting to look like a pizza box, right? Anyway, that's how you play with scaling. 100, just remember that 100 doesn't change anything. 101 makes it start getting a little bigger by 1% at a time every time you click scale. So you could make it, do it in small increments. So like I could take this and I could go 1 here, or actually let's go 99. So if I go 99, it's going to start, making it shorter every time I click. See how it's getting shorter every time I click? That's taking a while, so I'll go down to 95. Click, 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 till it looks like a pizza box to you. All right. Then I'll come in here. This is the top-down view, and I just want to slide it over. Giant pizza box. We're going to make it smaller. So then I'll take the corner here, and I'll just kind of get it about the size I want it. That's good enough for me. Put it there. Okay, still a little. Use my scale option to make it skinnier. Still a little fat. There we go. I'm alright with that. And then I'll bring it down. We're going to kind of position it here. Now we need to rotate it, right? Because if it hits there, it needs to kind of slant back this way, right? To hit the seats, right? So that's when right below the scale option, there's a rotate option. Now, if I rotate on the X, then it's gonna do what we want, okay? It's gonna tip back. If I rotate on the Y, watch what happens. Watch the top-down view. Let's get you in on the 3D so you can see as well. So I rotate on the Y by 1%, and let's keep clicking. It's gonna start twisting, right? We don't want to rotate that way. If I rotate on the Z by 1, it's gonna start, yawing left and right. We don't want that either. But the X is exactly what we want, right? So we'll do that. Just kind of like make it a plausible spot here. That's good enough. Make sure we're pretty much centered here. Good enough. Okay. So now let's look at what happened in the hierarchy view. See this Polybox? Polybox is new. Whenever we added that, whenever we clicked over here and we clicked on the thing and it made the box, it added this. See how it's actually not in the cockpit seats front OBJ? Like that tree ends right here. It's actually in world. World is X-plane, remember? And so there it is, Polybox. It's its own thing. Now what I want to do is I like this box, but it has no lid. Well, the lid is actually there. It's just closed, right? So we want to separate out the lid and probably the front face. I want the lid and the front face to like open up and swing back, right? So let's select nothing here, right, for a second. Let's go into object selection mode and select the box, right? And what I'm gonna do, actually, let's not do object selection mode. Let's do face selection mode because we want two of the faces to be isolated. So I'm gonna take this face, click on it, and I'm gonna click the shift button. I'm gonna click on that face, right? Those are the two faces. And what I'll do is I'll actually duplicate that, right? So all it's gonna do is it's gonna take this face and make another one right on top of where it actually is. So you won't actually be able to tell anything's different because it's literally exactly on top of where the other one is. But let's do it. So edit, duplicate, and watch what happens on the hierarchy view. It makes another polybox. Now this other polybox is just the top and the front, right? So if I select nothing and I deselect this whole box, you should still see a front and a top floating, right? By deselecting, I mean turning off the eyeball. When you turn off the eyeball, it basically turns off the visibility of it, right? That's a way to turn off the visibility. Turn on the visibility of that box. Now, if I turn off the visibility of this one, which is just the top and the front, you'll still see a top and a front because I haven't deleted it off of this box. So that's the next step. First, I duplicate, and now I got to go back and I got to remove this face and remove this face. Now I have a box with no top and front, and then I can put the visibility back on with this top and front, and it'll put it together. And now they're together, right? Together, separate. Cool? Makes sense? What I'm going to do is I'm going to click this polybox, and I'm going to drag it down to under here, right? Just so I can keep these together. If I wanted to move these into the cockpit seats, OBJ and make it part of it, I could by just clicking it and just dropping it anywhere. And now it's part of the cockpit seats. It's in the tree, and I can put this one in the tree. But I actually want to not do that, right? So I want to Control Z. I don't want them to be in there. I want this to be my own object, right? Because I'm going to give it different textures. If you're going to give it different textures, and you're not going to texture it off of what this is textured from, then you need your own object, which most of the time you do. Let's talk real quick about textures. So how is this thing getting its color, like information? Like why is my pizza box like white and my seats have this nice like color and like this red like buckle? Why is that? Like where's it getting its color information? Well, if you click on it, let's click on just select that poly. That poly is the seats. The other one here is the struts down below, and actually the back part of the seats. See that, the back part of the seats. Let's look at the front part of the seats. If you look at the front part of the seats, it's obviously loading a texture from somewhere. Well, the cockpit, or I'm sorry, the OBJ file has that information in the header. So if you opened it up with a notepad, you would see that information up there in the header, and it would say texture, and then it says the actual texture file name .png or DDS, one of the two, right? But in AC3D, you can go up here and you can click Tools, Texture Coordinator Editor, which is also F10 on your keyboard, and it brings up the Texture Coordinator Editor. Now it'll bring up a 2D view of the actual texture that is loading, which is this file. And the blue things here are representations of the geometry and how it lays over that texture. Basically how the texture is draped onto the geometry. For example, watch what happens when I move this. So right now you see it's selected. It's just like an object. I could take it and I could drag it and move it. And when I do that, you see how this all changed? Like now it's all weird. And I can bring it over here and put it there and it's gonna get like red stuff in it, right? Because I'm right over these red spots. I'm gonna Control Z out of all that and get back to normal. Right? And there it is. And so you can actually deform this stuff too. So I can take it and I can make it real skinny. Like that's how you would position things when you get ready to do that. But that's how it's getting its texture information. Now, if I wanted to texture my pizza box off of something in here, then I could just make it part of the front seats object, right? But I don't have anything in here that looks like any kind of pizza box that I want. So I'm gonna make my own texture, and we'll do that very elementarily here in just a bit. But anyway, so I don't want that. So I don't want that to be in that tree there of the cockpit seats front. I want my own thing. Now, I want this thing to animate, but not both parts, right? I don't care about the bottom part. The bottom part's always going to stay still. The top part, though, is the part that is that's the bottom part. So the bottom part's on the okay. So the top part, though, I want it to like swing up, right? Swing up and then kind of land on the back of this seat here. So to do that, we're going to make an animation. Now, to make an animation, you got to do some steps, all right? So just remember this. Step 1, make animation group. So I have to make this poly right here have an animation group. That tells XPlane, hey, inside this group of animations, or inside this group of objects, there's going to be an animation or two or more, right? Click on XPlane, and you click on Make Animation Group. Watch what happens with the hierarchy view. Make Animation Group, then it says Group Animation. Under the group animation is our thing we want to animate. Okay, that's done. Now that didn't actually do anything to where we're animating anything yet. All that did is tell XPlane that, hey, this is going to be an animation thing. I need this to be animated, right? This little section, this poly. Now we have to decide what kind of animation we want to give it. Is it a translation or a rotation? Remember, translate is slide, rotate is twist or rotate around, right? So this is obviously going to be a rotation around an axis on this top corner back here, right? You just think about how a pizza box opens. That's how it works. So go up to the XPlane menu and I click Make Rotation. Watch what happens. Make Rotation. Now, it gave me a poly rotation right here. It also gave me a yellow line, much like we saw on the other one. And it gave it an arbitrary length, which doesn't really matter on a rotation. But it made it up and down, right? That's kind of like its default is on the y-axis. Now, if I rotated this pizza box lid in front on the y-axis, all it would do is kind of spin like a top, right? That's not what we want. We actually want, if we can imagine that this is a pin, that this thing would rotate around a pin, we actually need it laying flat and we need it back here on the pizza box corner, right? So what we'll do is we'll actually make sure we're in object selection mode. We'll select the rotation itself and we want to rotate that to where it's flat, all right? So I want to rotate it on the z-axis. So this is the z-axis and I want to rotate it 90 degrees on the z-axis to make it flat. So I'll click on the Z over here, and I'll type in 90, and I'll click plus. There, now I made it flat. Now if I look at my top-down view, it's kind of like twisted, right? I need it, you know, parallel with the box. And so what I'll do is I'll actually rotate it on the Y a little bit until it's flat. I'll do it by 1 degree, and I'll just click, 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 until it's flat, right? Now it's flat. Now I want to position it on that corner, right? If I don't position it on that corner, it won't quite work right. So I'll just take it, I'm putting it close to the corner as I can. Doesn't have to be perfect here with this. As close to perfect as you can without being ridiculous, right? And then Now I've got a rotation. So I've got my box, and it can rotate around this axis. Now, this won't actually work the way I have it, and I'll tell you why. Is because you can't put the rotation under the object. The rotation, this rotation here, has to be above the object, which is our lid. If it's below it, it won't work. So if you're ever testing your animation and it's not doing anything, chances are you just have the hierarchy a little bit wrong. Let me show you what it looks like when it works. So let's put it right. So I want to take this rotation and put it above this, and all I got to do is click and drag. Clicking, I'm holding, I'm dragging, and I'm dragging it right on top of this polybox, and it's going to drop it above it, right? So now the rotation is above the polybox. Now, what we haven't done is given this rotation any kind of like value, right? So we need to tell it how many degrees we want this box to rotate around this pin, right? And we have to tell it what dataref we want to assign it to, right? So under poly rotation, you make sure you have that selected. You click on X-plane, and the very top one, X-plane objects properties. This is pretty much your go-to section for how to connect things in X-plane to datarefs, right? X-plane objects properties. You click on that, and it brings up a thing, right? I could rename this, and I could call it, pizza box lid, right? And then you have value 0 and value 1. This is your dataref range, right? So if you had this going from 0 to 1, then that's pretty typical in X-plane for like a dataref such as this. At angle 0, it would be where it is now, where the geometry is right now. And then angle 1, if I said 90, then it would rotate a direction. Now, it's either going to rotate up or it's going to rotate down. If it rotates down, then you're going to want to put -90. So I can never really tell which way it's actually going, but I think that we can say 90 here, right? And then we want to give it a dataref. Now, normally you would tie this to a dataref in X-plane that makes sense, right? This right here, this pizza box, there is no pizza box dataref, right? So we're just gonna, for now, for this purpose, we're just gonna call it something, right? A lot of times these are connected to what's called custom sliders. Custom sliders are just arbitrary datarefs that X-plane gives you to work with. Let's go ahead and connect it to a custom slider. So what I do when I'm searching for the exact name of a dataref is there's a lot of ways to do it, but if you just go to the internet and type in dataref X-plane 11, find the sim. Let's see, dataref. Let's do search. Dataref search. Looking for the sim innovations. Yeah, there we go. Sim innovations is the one that I like. There's several of these. I'm just gonna type in the word custom. Custom slider ratio. That's what we want. Right. So custom slider on is actually what we want here. Let's not do slider. What do we want to do here? Let's do custom. Yeah, if we do custom let's just do custom slider on. So we'll connect this to. Yeah, no, we'll do custom slider ratio. Sorry, making decisions here. Do custom slider ratio, and you notice that's an array dataref. So real quick, these datarefs, there's 24 of them, and custom slider ratio is not actually the whole dataref. There's a square bracket, and then a number, and then a square bracket. 0 through 24 means there's actually 25 of them. 0, through 10 are usually taken, and so you'll need to check in the aircraft that you're using which ones are taken and which ones aren't. There's a couple places to check. The easiest way to check is in the Cockpit OBJ. You can search for it, and but if you use one of the later ones, then chances are it's not taken. You can use it. So I'm going to use 23 because 23 is one of my favorite numbers in the world. So we're going to go and we're going to call this square bracket close 23. Open close, right? So custom slider 23, right? And the angle is 90. The value. So when the value 1 is 1, the angle is 90. Now say we wanted to make that non-linear. And we wanted to say, because I can add one, I could say add here. And that, so it's 0, when the dataref is at 0, the angle's at 0. When the dataref is at 0.5, we want the angle to be like 75. And then when the value of the dataref is 1, it'll be 90. Now what that'll do is that'll make it non-linear, and I'll show you what that means. Let's delete that real quick and just look at it. So then how do you test your animation? So we've set up our animation, we've set up our values. How do we look at it? Well, if you go into Xplane and you click on animation time down here, animation time, and it gives you all your animations, right? It'll have a list of them. We've only got one in this whole thing, but that's it. Custom slider ratio 23. And if you slide it, see how it's at 0? If you slide it, there, it opens up. See that? You close it, it opens up to 90 degrees. Pretty cool, right? Now, you notice I don't like the way it's open because it's not opened all the way. So what I want to do is actually make it more than 90. So I'll bring in my objects properties again. Remember, I've still got pizza box lid rotation selected. Objects properties, where I have those numbers. And let's go to like 115, right? And I can just move it down here. And then you click resync and then move it off of 1 and back to 1. Then you can see that it looks pretty good. It's down, rotate this down. Yeah, it's hitting the seatbelt strap there, which I like. Slide. Yeah, that's good enough for me. Happy with that. Right. So say we wanted to add a second value in there. So I can add, and I can go at 0.5 on the dataref. We want this thing to be 25. So basically it's going to open slow and then speed up, right? So then if I hit resync, I'm going to start, it's opening slow, and then boom, speeding up, and closing, and then it's more, it takes from 0 to 5 on the slider. Halfway it brings it only up to here. And then the second half, opens way up, right? So, which is kind of cool, but we'll keep it linear for now. But that was so if you have to sync up things non-linearly, however you say that word, that's how you do that. So I can delete that and we can make it back to that. So there you go. That's how you would do that. Now, once I'm done with my pizza box here, I've pretty much, I'm happy with that for what we're doing. Then what I'll do is I'll actually remove these seats because I was just using the seats as a point of reference. And when we load this up into Xplane, it's actually going to be sitting right there. So pretty cool. And what I'll do is I'll close this. No, I want to delete the seats, right? So when I'm done with the seats, when you're done with what you want to, your reference points, you want to get rid of them out of your hierarchy. So I'm selecting it by group, selecting it there, and I'm just going to go edit, delete, or I could just hit the delete key. And all I'm left with is my box bottom, which has no animation, and then my animated pizza and pizza box, and I'm going to save that right now. When I click save, it's just going to save it as thing, an AC3D file. It's not actually saving it as an OBJ yet. We got to export that, but we're not there yet. We haven't textured it. So I'll go in and I'll just say, I'll call this, pizza box. And that's an AC3D file. That way if it locks up or whatever, you can always get right back to it. It's positioned and it's there and it's got its rotation. Now let's give it some sort of texture. We're gonna do a real quick, like arbitrary texture, right? So I'm just gonna go into paint because we're just gonna get this done quick. I'm gonna go new, and then on my canvas here, I'm gonna make sure it's a square of 1024, 2048, or 4096. So it's either gonna be a 1K texture, a 2K texture, or a 4K texture. It's gotta be one of those three options, really. And let's just make it a 1K texture because, like, who cares, right? So 1024 by 1024. These have to be the same. Your height and your width have to be the same. That's why I say it's got to be a perfect square. 1024 by 1024, right? And so then what I'll do is I'll just like put some colors here. We'll make the top of the box like this. Make it like kind of like maroon. Now let's make it like a light blue. Then I'll put some text in here. I'll say, like centered Joe's. It's a box of just miss. Joe's pizza box of happiness. Hunger crushing happiness. Okay. There. Then make it fit. Make it fit a little better. Go. Bold. Go. There we go. And then the rest of it will be like go some other colors. Some other colors. Maybe we'll do 1, 2. Good enough, whatever. And then I'll save this as a PNG. Call this box.png. Put it in X-plane, aircraft, laminar, 172 objects. Right, because we're gonna have a pizza box object, and we'll call this pizza box PNG. Right, so it's in there. Then if I go close that, and I don't care to save it, or close this, and I can select on the box itself. This is the bottom. I'm gonna hide the lid stuff, and we'll go texture. So what you want to do is you want to assign that texture to this thing, right? So I go Objects, Texture, and then I want to load the texture. I gotta find it, right? So I go Load Texture, and get into that aircraft folder, laminar, 172, objects, and there should be a pizza box. There it is, pizza box. So it kind of put it like kind of wherever it wanted, right? So now what I want to do is I want to do this one step at a time. So what I'll do is I'll select the faces that I want to deal with, right? So this bottom face, right? And this inside face here. Let's see. Here so I can see what I'm doing. Inside face there. Inside face. I can't select that one. Deal with that in a minute. Then I'll go Tools, remember, Tools Texture Coordinator Editor. And I just want that stuff to be brown. So I don't even care like orientation or whatever. I just want it to be like that cardboard brown, right? And then this one, I'll select, see if I can do this another way. View, look at selection, so I can, so select. Actually, let's just take the whole thing. So what I want to do is I'll take the whole thing because this whole deal, I want to be brown first. So I'll select the whole box that's not the top and the front, and I'll make it brown. So I'll go to Texture Coordinator Editor. Now what you can do is I can unwrap that box. So basically, I've got the whole box as this square, but if I click on unwrap right here, it basically gives me different things. Now it's got it stacked up a little bit right there, so that's not how I want it. You can actually remap. So if I do front, left, right, bottom, top, etc. I can go keep size ratio. I can make it spherical, which will like do the size like that. So basically I can select it by surface, vertex. This unwrapping thing is kind of goofy a little bit with what I do, how I do it, but serves its purpose when you're just trying to get it all, make it all brown. So there's that. I made it all brown. Actually, I want to unwrap it. Basically, we'll do the top just like it was. That for now. So now that's all brown. And let's see if I can take just the outside face of the side, back, and the other side. Can't the other side for some reason. This other side just doesn't want to cooperate for whatever reason. Oh, you get the point. I'll take this side and this side. I'm gonna make those red. So if I go to Tools, Texture Coordinator, I can make red. Now they're red. The bottom of it's brown. The side of it's brown. That. So let's do the top. So I just want to do the top there. And if I go to Texture Coordinator Editor, what I'll do is I want to assign, still have to assign that object its texture. If you ever click on Texture Coordinator and there's like no picture there, it's because I didn't assign. So remember, you got to go up to Object, Texture, load texture. Now, once I've done it once, so it's in here. So it's in this little tree. It's right there, pizza box. It puts it there. And now I want to just mess with the top face and get it oriented correctly. So I'll go into Tools, Texture Coordinator Editor, and I can move around like this and get it to where I want it. So I can take this and just that, all right? Make sure I'm just getting the whole texture there. But it's like rotated wrong. So I'm gonna take it and rotate, I think 90. There we go, that's better. Let's say I want to move it up a little bit. So in. It's kind of, oh, I'll do that. Work. Okay, there's my top. I like that. Front. Control Shift A there, and I can that front. We'll just make it red, just like that. Right. So now we've got our object, which for whatever reason I can't select that face. I'm not sure why. Try one thing real quick. Bother me. Can't select it from either side. Select that vertex. I wonder if that's gonna work. Oh, yeah, that worked. Okay, whatever. Yeah, so whatever, that worked. Select if I were to see if that gives you issues. So there we go. So there's our pizza box. Now, we've assigned it a texture. Now we want to export this dude, right? I've tested the animation. Let's save it. Save pizza box. And we're gonna do export by texture, right? So by texture export. You have two options to export. You can by texture export or you can bulk export. Let me tell you how this works. Okay, so remember in the seats object, the seats object was referencing that texture that had multiple objects referencing that same texture. Remember, it had all those things. It wasn't just seats in that PNG or that DDS, whatever it was. It wasn't just seats in there. It was all kinds of other things. So if you do a by texture export on that, it's gonna rename. It's basically gonna mess everything up. So don't do a by texture export on that. Do a bulk export on it, and don't export it into your objects folder quite yet. So you want to export it somewhere else first, generally, just to make sure that it's named the right thing and it looks the right way and it's referencing the right texture before you slide it over into the objects folder. Otherwise, you can get yourself in a little bit of a world of trouble. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to, I'm going to do by texture export because this is the only texture that pizza box is referencing is the pizza box texture. So when it's isolated nice and clean like that, you can do a by texture export. So I'll go by texture export, and I will go ahead and put it in the objects folder of where we're working, right? Laminar Research 172 objects, and I'll click select folder. Now it's automatically going to name my OBJ pizza box because that's what the texture is named, pizzabox.png. So it's going to name it pizzabox.obj. So I'm going to click select folder of the objects folder. And if I go back and I look into the objects folder, there's a pizzabox.obj, and a pizzabox.png. If I double click on pizzabox.obj and open it with a Notepad++, you can see that it says texture pizzabox.png, which is cool. That means it's referencing that pizzabox PNG. It also says these things like normal metalness, blend glass, and all that. Neither one of those actually applies right now because we're not giving it a normal file, which a normal file is like your reflectance file. It gives it like some shininess and some reflectivity. So it won't have that right now, although you're not going to get much reflectivity off of a piece of cardboard anyway, unless it's like a shiny paint. But that's not for AC3D to do. That is for another thing, right? That's for like Photoshop or 3D Code or Blender or something that can actually add normal files to your object. That's not the point of this. The point of this is just getting an object. How do you get the object in? This is not a tutorial on the art part of it, right? But let's just leave it there. We don't need to like delete it or anything. These are the points in space of our object. Remember I said these are the vector. These are literally those little points, those little vertices position in X-plane. And then down here you can see this is your trans. These two anim trans is the length of your yellow line, and this rotate is actually the way it rotates. See that 115? Remember that's its value 2. Its value 1 on the angle is 0. Value 2 is 115, and then it goes from 0 to 1 on the dataref, and this is the dataref it does it on, right? And all that. So it's in there. Now, if I load up X-plane right now, it is not going to be in there. Why? Because we still have one last step to do before it actually gets into X-plane, right? So you need to go into Plane Maker and add that into as an object in your aircraft. Let's go ahead and do that now. So if you go into the X-plane root folder and you click on Plane Maker, right there, and you go to File, Open. You want to open the aircraft that you're working on. So go Aircraft, Laminar, 172. Then you got 3 different aircrafts, the G1000, the Seaplane, and the ACF. We'll just load it on the normal 172 SP ACF. And it doesn't matter which livery you choose. So just open the aircraft. This is real easy. Don't let this start confusing you. Don't let Plane Maker like freak you out. You just go up to Standard and you click on Miscellaneous Objects. And this is a list. You see this line here and this line here. This is a list of all the objects that are in the objects folder that loads up when the aircraft loads, right? So if I want to add a new one, I would just click Add down here, and it gives me, scroll down, it gives me a blank line of a blank stuff. Now leave this part alone, right? We don't want to mess with that. We've set our location in AC3D just by putting it where it needs to be. Right here, though, is where you set the name of it, right? And you set the file reference. So you want to click on this box, and it brings up a thing like which object do you want to load? Well, there's pizza box right there, and I'll click Open Object. And then kill dataref. We're not actually going to kill this thing. Kill dataref is like hide, but like hide it to where it goes away completely. There's 2 types of hides. One is it goes away completely, and one it just hides it from view. We don't want to hide it right now. We're not messing with hides right now. But here's pizza box. There it is. Now it would show up in X-plane if I saved it and did it. But one more thing I want to do is lighting. You want to make sure this is inside because it's inside the cockpit. You want to make sure it's inside lighting. And then shadow mode, you want to make sure it's interior shadows, right? Exterior only means you would only see shadows outside the aircraft, like on the ground from the pizza box, but you wouldn't see them on the seat. Interior only means you'd see shadows on the seat, but not on the ground outside. And that's pretty much what I think we want, because to save performance, you can save a little bit of performance by not doing all views, but let's go ahead and just do all views for now. High res, we're not doing any kind of high res textures. We just have a 1K texture. wreckage, I'm not sure what that is. All these other things, I'm not sure what they are. This interior cockpit and exterior cockpit, these are if it's a cockpit OBJ file or not. So if it's got like manipulators in it or not, which it doesn't, we don't want to do anything on that. So we're just gonna leave all that alone. Prefill, we're not gonna do any prefill or anything like that. Just leave it like it is, inside and all views on the shadows. And then you can do the little X here, not the big X, but the little X here just gets you out of the Miscellaneous Objects menu. You just go to File, Save, and that's it. I can close that dude. And now, if I jump into X-Plane, we're going to load up that 172, and we should see a pizza box sitting in the co-pilot seat. Alright, and there's our pizza box. Right there. And if I go in here to, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. I'm so far down on my custom sliders. But if I go into dataref tool, I might be able to actually change. See, 24, 23. This one. If I change that to 1. Maybe it's this one. One of these is gonna open that dude. There it is. There we go. And now our pizza box is open. Now you see it's kind of clipping in there. So then we would just go into AC3D and reposition it a little bit. And then just you can stay in X-Plane, and I could literally just take this dude, select all of it. Let's see, select the whole group, and I could. It's kind of like up ever so slightly, and then do a bitexture export again. Make sure I'm exporting back into that objects folder. And then do a developer reload. And then open it up again. Wherever I was. Yeah, the last one. There it is. And so that's a lot better. I can go down and look at it. Really what I should have is a second. I should have another front face that doesn't go up with it, because that's kind of unrealistic right there. But you get the idea. And also, we would need to texture the back face of this brown, and the front face would be blue. But you get the idea of how this works. So I hope this was helpful. I hope you learned a little bit about just the interfacing of things. I'd like to get into another wave of this tutorial, maybe talking about glass and like transparency, and then another one talking about like normal maps and shininess and glossiness. We'll get into that a little bit as well, although that's diving a little bit more into art than it is AC3D in general. AC3D is really just about getting geometry into X-Plane, and texturing side of it really normally isn't done in AC3D. It's normally done in something like Blender or something like whatever your 3D modeling program is. Although you saw how I could unwrap it, and you saw how I could position textures and stuff like that. But it's just, to me, it's more clunky. Like I said, other people are better with it, and other people have made some pretty amazing things with it. Just for me, I find it easier in Blender to do the art part of it. But as far as doing the actual getting of the stuff into X-Plane and getting it animated right and getting it like like for example, just the gauges. Like you could totally just make this static texture, right? And then this little guy here is an object with a little rotation going right through that little dot, and this guy is an object, little rotation, and this guy's tied to the feet times 1,000 dataref. This guy's tied to the feet times 10 dataref, and then there's a little disc back here with a little window cut out here, and there's a disc that you don't see that rotates around a point about here, and it is your millibars right there, and then that rotates as you rotate this knob. So it's all tied together in just making discs and making needles and making things and tying them to rotations and tying them to datarefs. And a lot of the datarefs are already done for you in X-Plane. You just got to tie them to the right ones. And if they're not done, you just make them into a custom slider. You know what I mean? And then if you have some custom things that need to be done to it, you would have to create your own dataref, and you do that in the code, and you would code it up however you need to code it. But if you don't even want to get that far and you just want to make stuff like this, for example, I could make fuzzy dice, and I could hang fuzzy dice from a thing, and then I could have the thing kind of sway back and forth based on gravity and based on forces that X-Plane can give you. You've seen that before probably in the Dream 407 and some other they'll have the headsets that kind of rotate around, or like the key, they'll have a keychain that kind of hangs down here and rotates around. You can just add and tweak and do so many different things. You can make a bag, you can make baggage, luggage, and different things, and you open it up and it's got some personalized stuff back there. It's just, there's a lot you can do, and obviously you can add to the fuselage. You can just add different pieces of geometry. You can add different pieces of gear to the aircraft, and it's really cool. I hope this was helpful, and maybe we'll do another round of this at a later time. But that's it for now. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.